Greetings, everyone. I'm Mar, and once again, this is my opinion. In life, we're going to make new friends. If there's one thing that we don't want out of that, it's if we make friends with people who are parents that are ineffectual parents. And this ineffectual parenting can manifest in several ways, one of which is a child that is a little manipulative and does it to get whatever they want. And we see Ray deal with that a little bit in today's episode, which of course is Annoying Kid. Season 7, Episode 8, Everybody Loves Raymond. This is an episode written by Lou Schneider. And as I mentioned in the last episode, this is one that I usually skip. And having watched it, that does not change. And I'm going to put it this way. It's thankful that I got some enjoyment out of this episode to the level that I did, because if this episode had not aged better for me, this probably would have been another rant. Not an annoying rant like that episode last season, but still, in some regards, it's still pretty close to being one. Before I get too far into it, just a reminder, if you want to support the channel, both the Patreon and PayPal links are down below. If you want to gain access to videos early, be able to suggest topics for future videos, go the PayPal route. Give me the Patreon route. If you just want to do one-off support and one-off requests, go the PayPal route. Either way, your support is appreciated. Annoying Kid. Now, the genesis of this episode is that Ray and Debra have made a couple new friends, and these friends have a kid, and the kid gets along pretty well with the twins, because it's a boy, so that's pretty good. It's like going hand in hand. Looks like they're going to have some new friends and all that. But Ray, for whatever reason, just cannot stand the kid because he's a little annoying. Which, from what we see how he is, we could see he's a little high-strung, a little hyperactive. So there's always the possibility he could be like me, where he's ADHD and he's just not diagnosed and being untreated, which I can kind of see that. You could also say maybe he's on the spectrum, just hasn't been diagnosed because he's high-functioning, which I would say if he is, he definitely is, because it was seen later on where he debates Ray, which I get it if it's obscure knowledge you have, but the way he does it is like, in the context of the situation you guys are having, that's a little disrespectful, and the parents should have jumped in. I know I'm jumping ahead, but something to note. Ray just doesn't like the kid. Now, at first you're like, not liking the kid's a little weird, and Debra rightly calls him in on it. You're not going to take this whole thing of not liking the kid and making it to where we lose this friendship. I mean, they have some friends. I mean, they got Linda and Bernie, but as of late, they rarely see them because they're having their own parenting life. So it's like earlier when they had the kids and the kids were younger, where they had to, make meet dates, as it were. And now, since they got a young kid, same type of thing. So they're looking for more friends to try to grow out of the little funk they're in. Well, with a kid named Spencer, there's two things that he does in the early scene where I side with Ray 100% here. First one is when they mention dessert. They mention the cannolis are for the adults and the cookies are for the kids. And Spencer goes into the room where the cannolis are, grabs one, and when Ray tries to tell him, hey, those are for the adults, the cookies are for you guys, I'm the guest. And then he takes a bite out of one and throws it in the trash. That right there, if it was me, we'd get to the point where, okay, this kid's not allowed over anymore. Because even if they're not your parents, when you're a guest in someone's house and they tell you specifically that there are desserts specifically for the kids and specifically for the adults, and you blatantly disregard that, then you are blatantly disregarding the house rules and you should not be over there anymore. It's like if you were to say there's only drinks for the adults and drinks for the kids gets an adult one and it's alcohol. You're going against the whole thing. Now, why they only do the cannolis for adults, I don't know. Maybe a little treat for them because cookies are easier to make, I guess. But it doesn't matter what the reason would be. Spencer was told this, and he disregarded it, and he wasted the food too. So for that, it's like, nah, wouldn't be allowed over. And then he also said something in Ray's chair, and Ray sits on it. That's what leads to him and Debra having their little discussion. Debra's like, you're not ruining this for me. Which at first, it's like, okay, maybe you can deal with it, but it's one of those things where Debra is just siding with Spencer's parents just to side with Spencer's parents, and because since she's been with Ray so much at this point, she's assuming he's just jumping to a negative conclusion. Which, even if he was, Debra, your partner is telling you how he feels about this kid. This is a point where you have a conversation with the parents away from the kid so they can't go and ask the kid, and then let them know, like, hey, just so you know, Spencer ate one of the cannolis when Ray told him that those are for the adults, and then he threw it away. You might want to have a conversation with him about boundaries and listening to the rule set, or else he's not going to be allowed back over. I mean, you two are welcome, but he's not going to be allowed over. That doesn't happen. Now, when we come to the next scene, we see that even Ray's parents and Robert are really liking the new friends. And of course, the twins are really loving hanging out with Spencer. And this leads to the scene I mentioned earlier where Spencer tries to bring in the knowledge when he's being, I don't want to say disciplined, but having some negative behavior corrected by Ray, since it is Ray's house, and what he's going to do is going to affect the house, which is him and the twins jumping on the bed. He mentions something like that, and it leads to the conversation about spiders, and of course Spencer brings up, oh, they could float on natural air currents, which is true using their webs. But this is not a moment where you bring something up like that without sounding, I'm trying to think the right word. I don't know if know-it-all would be the right one word to say, but kind of bordering on that. What do his parents say about this? Oh, nothing other than he likes to debate. Which could say probably why he is as ill-behaved as he is, because every time they try to discipline him, he tries to correct them. But even then, it's like, dude, get up off your ass and correct your kid's negative behavior. Just sitting from where you are, you can see how it is. You could be like, hey, Spencer, don't talk to other adults like that. Or some other thing. Because from what little we see of Spencer and his parents, with how they discipline him and then how they fall for his sob story later in the episode, we really see why he is the way he is, because he can go and use a situation to his advantage. And it's also the fact that his parents just don't want to discipline him. They strike me as the ones that want to be their child's friend and not the actual parent. Which, I kind of get wanting to bond with your kids, so that being the whole friend thing, but when they're children, you got to be more in the parent mold. When they are older, and you guys get along, and you kind of could go into that parent-buddy thing, that makes a little bit more sense, because they're grown. But when they're kids, you actually have to be a parent. And in that regard, Spencer's parents are failing, and I wouldn't be surprised if, like, 10 years after this episode is set, Spencer's having issues. Hopefully not into the dark level, but just the way his parents are acting, they kind of strike me as if Spencer went down that road, they would be trying to defend him. He was always so nice. I don't know why they're doing this to him. They're railroading him. It just strikes me as that. Or if he failed his thing, it's like, he was always so smart. I don't know where we went wrong. Well, maybe not correcting his negative behavior is where you went wrong, lady. But enough of the hypothesizing there. Ray goes off again and he's talking with Frank and Robert about the kid, about how he can't stand him. And this leads to one of the big saving graces for the episode for me. Even though it ties back into the whole thing about Spencer being a negative thing. Because if it wasn't for this one little joke thing, then I'd be asking what's this point of this episode other than being a little bit of filler. And this is the one moment that even now I laughed out loud at, and that was a little prank that Spencer pulls on Ray by rearranging the letters on the fridge and spelling out Ray stinks. I love this setup for it, where Robert's like, you stink. And he's like, according to your refrigerator. Shot of it, Ray stinks, and then the look on that Ray Romano puts on his face to sell this. This whole setup and all that is why I got a laugh out of it. And then when he's trying to ask his dad and brother if they're the ones that did it, Frank's reaction is what really helps sell it. Did you put it? If I put it, it wouldn't say stinks. Now, of course, they do talk to Spencer about it, and he denies it. And this, of course, after Ray goes up and interrupts them jumping on the bed, and the whole little interaction there is what confirms for Ray that Spencer's the one that puts it. Now, with that, I'm surprised that parents didn't say anything, because of Spencer jumping on the bed, you can clearly hear what that's going on, and they were there when Ray said no. You would think at least one of them would get up and go upstairs with Ray and then go, hey, Mr. Barone told you not to be doing this, and you go up here and do that? That's not very nice. That's disrespectful. But no, they don't, and we all know why. It's because Spencer's got them twisted around his little finger. We know kids like this exist and parents like this exist, so I can see why they decide to touch on it in this episode, but it's one of those ones that, like, just doesn't, other than some of the moments, doesn't really make for an enjoyable watch. It's like a one and done episode. And I think that's part of the reason why, even when I was younger, this would be one I'd skip most of the time, watch it every now and then, be like, yeah, nothing, just doesn't do it for me. I mean, nothing against Lou and how he writes the jokes, writes the characters and all that. It's just the premise just doesn't really strike me that well, other than those couple moments. Especially since in the end, it seems like the parents don't learn anything and start to think that Ray is the issue. And from there, it's a typical what you would expect given the situation and all that. And of course, like I mentioned, makes you wonder how this kid is going to be 10 years after this episode's set. But one of those things is like, yeah, these parents did not learn anything, and they're probably just going to raise a little bit of a monster. Now, one thing that kind of does make up a little bit for how that last part of the episode goes, and it goes in, like I said, goes in the way you would expect with how these characters are. And normally I would sit here and, talk about it note for note, and I'll go with that, but I just don't feel like it, and I don't have the energy to want to spend the mental fortitude going through it. That's just because of how annoying it is. And if that's one way to describe the premise in this episode, it is annoying. Which, given the name of the episode, Annoying Kid, is fitting. That it's a premise that would annoy me. I think part of it is the fact that the kid is shown to possibly have some type of mental I don't want to say disorder, or learning disability. He's not wired the way that people would say is normal, and he just has the wrong parents. Now, if anything, this does tie into my whole little thing of where people go, well, it's nature or nurture, where I say it tends to be both. Just depending on the situation, it leans more one way than the other, but they're kind of a little in play. Here, I definitely say it's both. And that the kid, the nature part is how he is wired, and the nurture part is the fact he has the wrong parents. If you have the better parents in the situation, you could probably come out right. Could still probably come out wrong, but all that. Now, like I brought up just a second ago, the epilogue helps save it, and it ties back into the Ray stink thing, where on their fridge, Frank rearranges the letters to put Marie stinks. I just love the way that George Robert sells this when she sees it. And you're like, Frank! Good old Frank, taking an idea and running with it. He's got to have a little bit of fun there. As you could probably guess from how I'm talking about it, this is not one that comes with my recommendation. If you want to see how Ray deals with a kid that is annoying, it's worth a watch. If you like it more than I have based on this review, power to you. If you do like it and you're watching this video and you're disagreeing with my opinion on it, that's fine. If you want to mention why you like it in the comment section, go ahead. Just keep it respectful. Y'all know how I feel about the comments that are disrespectful. That's really all I got to say about this one. Next episode is definitely going to be a little bit of a palate cleanser for me when it comes to this. That's going to be one that definitely is going to hit home just from one little monologue said by Robert. And of course, finally ending one little storyline that I think they drug on a little bit too long by this point. Of course, next episode is She's the One. Till next time, guys.